Hello, folks. Welcome to Unconventional Paths for Healing Cancer. Today I've got a very special guest with me, Mr. Joe Tippins. He's got an incredible story of survival. He exudes incredible positive attitude with strong family support, friendships, prayer, and humor. Joe came back from insurmountable odds, using a pet medicine to cure his terminal cancer diagnosis. Joe has shared his story on the internet to help others, and it's blown up to a level he never imagined. And now many others have posted their own remarkable success stories. So welcome, Joe. How are you today?
I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, my pleasure. I've been following your story, and I'm on the dewormer as well, and it seems to be helping me. So it's a real great thing. So. For those that haven't heard your story, though, maybe give a little background. What kind of cancer and stage, you were at when you were diagnosed, and then, what kind of happened?
Okay, well, I'll give you the short version because the long version gets a little boring. In Labor Day is actually 3 years ago, this September 1st. Mm-hmm. I was preparing to move to Switzerland, and I went into a weekend emergency clinic to just get some stuff for my nose. It was kind of clogged up. The weekend emergency doc did a chest x-ray and told me he really wanted me to get a CT scan before I flew over to Switzerland. And I did, and there was a tumor the size of my fist in my lower left lung lobe.
Oh, you're kidding.
And after a biopsy, we found, not only was there a large tumor in the lower left, the lymph nodes were affected as well. Mm-hmm. And a biopsy showed that it was the worst kind. It was small cell lung cancer. And so I went to MD Anderson in Houston and embarked on a September, October, November journey at MD Anderson of both chemo and radiation.
Yeah.
The radiation, they had to, because I had pneumonia along the way, they had to suspend the radiation. And then when they started it back, they doubled it up twice a day.
Ouch.
And so I had, in 6 locations, all going through my esophagus to get to the right spot in the lung, I had radiation twice a day. And so 12 times a day, the same spot in the esophagus was getting bombarded.
Wow.
And it turned my esophagus into bacon. I mean, literally as hard as wood.
Ouch.
And even water wouldn't go down. And I decided not to do a feeding tube because they're pretty disgusting. Mm-hmm. And I've always believed that the human body can withstand a lot more than most people realize. And I decided to live off of my fat stores and my muscle stores instead of doing a feeding tube. And I wasted away from 220 pounds down to 105 pounds.
Wow.
And I was literally and I'm 5'10", fairly big bones. So I was a skeleton with skin hanging off of it.
Yes.
Of course, lost all my hair and all that regular stuff that ever happens to everybody.
Joe, let me ask you just one thing. When you were first diagnosed, were you feeling? How were you feeling? Were you feeling a little bit sick or?
Completely asymptomatic. I went in because I had nasal congestion, and I was getting ready to fly overseas and to Switzerland, and I just wanted something for the nasal congestion.
Okay.
The doctor heard some things in my lung that made him do a chest x-ray, and then from the chest x-ray we did a CT scan, and that's how I found it. But I had no symptoms, none.
Sorry. Okay.
And it was huge.
Right.
So it's really amazing you can have something that large in your lung and not have any symptoms, but I didn't feel anything. And they also did prophylactic whole brain radiation because in small cell lung cancer, it's kind of interesting stats. About 95% of the time it metastasizes to the brain.
Okay.
But if you prophylactically radiate the brain, that drops down to below 5%. So it's kind of a no-brainer to go ahead and do the whole brain radiation, even though it causes short-term memory loss. which it has. I mean, I can noticeably have had memory loss.
That's all right. Yeah.
And in my follow-up PET scan in January of 2017, they had good news and bad news. The good news was that the monster in my left lung was gone. The chemo and radiation did the trick.
Okay.
The bad news was that it had completely metastasized throughout my entire body. I had tumors in my neck, my stomach, my liver, my bladder, my pancreas, and in my bones. My PET scan lit up like a Christmas tree from neck to pelvis.
Wow.
And I'm sure you know that when small cell lung cancer goes that far afield,
yeah,
that your survivability goes to literally zero.
Yeah.
And your median life expectancy is in the 3-month range.
Yeah.
So I was sent home to higher hospice. There's nothing else we can do for you, Joe.
Yeah.
The next day, I've got the most unlikely phone call in my life. And I would call the first guardian angel that saved my life along the way was a weekend emergency room doctor who wouldn't take no for an answer on getting a CT scan.
Right.
And the second guardian angel that saved my life was a unlikely source. It was a large animal, cattle and horse veterinarian in western Oklahoma.
Okay.
And he was a family friend. And he told me this crazy story about a lady scientist at the veterinary side of Merck who was doing research on mice. Mm-hmm. And she was implanting all different kinds of cancers into different body parts of different mice. And she found out along the way that her entire mouse population came down with intestinal parasites, and she was about to lose several years of research. So she had to try to save. So she had to try to save her mice, mm-hmm. And so she gave them penbendazole to get rid of the intestinal parasites. The problem is, she came back later and she also cured the mice of cancer.
Isn't it funny how sometimes these things, they find
she
out.
Found that,
she found out
totally by accident.
Yeah.
Well, then the story gets better because this same lady then was diagnosed with 4th stage glioblastoma wrapped around her brainstem, and she was sent home to higher hospice. So she decided, what the heck? I'll just take this stuff.
Why not?
And she cured herself. So,
how long ago was that, Joe?
That was in January of 2017. Mm-hmm. Now, when she did it, I'm not certain because I've never been able to talk to her because of her job. She won't talk to anybody. Right?
Okay. Yeah.
So I basically decided I have nothing to lose. The best cancer center in the world gave up on me. So, shoot. The best cancer center in the world gave up on me, and I decided, what the heck? So I went on, and I'd done, a whole man-year of research on other supplements.
Sure.
And I was already taking some other things, and I decided to start this. And so I started, and I just followed a regimen, the dosage that he gave me, the veterinarian. Mm-hmm. And I've learned a lot about dosage since then, but I started just doing it 3 days a week. Mm-hmm. 1 gram, 222 milligrams of penbendazole 3 days a week, 3 days on, 4 days off.
Okay.
I did that for all of January, all of February, all of March, and all of April for 4 months.
Right.